All right, everybody, we are 1 week away from the MLB trade deadline. Jeff Passan, he put out a long article today, and it was on all of the teams and what they could be doing at the trade deadline. He mentioned some names. We know the Padres needs starting pitching, relief pitching. We'll see if they add a bat, but I feel like the focus is on the arms. Can never have enough pitching. And so I put out a list of some of the names that were mentioned in this Jeff Passan article. I'll include the link to the article, by the way, in the description to this video. Let's start off with starting pitching. So Jack Flaherty, Garrett Crochet, Eric Fetty, Trevor Rogers, Tyler Anderson, Yusei Kikuchi, Cal Quantrill, Austin Gomber, Jameson Taillon, Frankie Montas, Nathan Eovaldi, Michael Lorenzen, Andrew Heaney, and Jose Urena. So there's some names there that baseball fans definitely know. Jack Flaherty is an interesting one. I think he was one of those snubs for the All-Star game. Like, who is that next batch of guys that could have been All-Stars that weren't? Jack Flaherty is on that list. He's always been an intriguing name to me ever since Mike Shildt was hired as the Padres manager. The relationship between Shildt and Flaherty. Shildt obviously knows Flaherty. I don't know how Flaherty feels about Mike Shildt, but I don't think that they hate each other. I don't think Flaherty dislikes Mike Shildt. And you get Jack Flaherty, pair him up with Ruben Niebla. Jack Flaherty, I assume, really wants to win. The Tigers doesn't feel like they're there this year. Could be a little bit in the future. The only thing there I would think is the contract. Although the good thing is, and this goes with all of these deals, is the Padres don't have to pay, $13 million for, the rest of this season to a starting pitcher. It would be prorated. So it would be more like a third of that contract, however many games they played, however many games they will have that guy for, it would be prorated, which will help the Padres. I believe they're around $12 million away from that first CBT number. Padres want to stay under that. If Darvish does not return, if they know before the deadline that Darvish is not going to return the rest of the year, then they do not pay him the rest of the year, and that will give them more money to spend, or it will open up more money before they get under, or before they reach that CBT number. It'll give them more room to play with. Now, it feels like, the last thing I heard was, I believe, from Kevin Acee. He reported that Darvish is still staying in shape, and we don't know if he is going to return. That is unknown. And if I'm the Padres, I want clarity on that. Like, whatever Darvish's personal situation is, that's his situation. It's his business. But I think if you're the Padres, you're his employer. I think, I'm not saying publicly we should know. I'm saying the Padres probably want to have a good idea of whether Darvish is planning on returning or not. Because if he's not, then that puts more pressure probably on the Padres front office to go get another arm. They probably want at least one starter. If Darvish isn't going to come back, you don't know about the health of Musgrove. If he's going to be good, there's injuries that could happen as well with other guys, or just lack of production. You want more depth, so you might want to be getting a couple of starters. And so just from the list here, yeah, Garrett Crochet, that's a big name, but like I wrote here in the tweet, feels impossible without giving up Salas or DeVry. Jeff Passan wrote that those guys are off limits, which is no surprise. 17, 18-year-olds, the Padres feel like those guys could be the next Tatis or Merrill. And I'm going to trust the Padres when they say that with their evaluation. Have they missed on some? Yeah, but they've hit on a lot of guys with draft picks. And when they're this, I know these guys weren't draft picks, but when they're this highly protective of those guys, I feel like they're going to turn out to be something. You go look at Ethan Salas' numbers this year. Yeah, not great. But we got to remember he's 18 years old? It may take some time. He's also playing a demanding position at catcher where there's a lot more mentally on him. And again, he's 18 playing in professional baseball. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, trade Ethan Salas because he's not playing well in the minors when he's 18 years old, right? Some guys aren't even drafted yet at 18 years old. So Garrett Crochet, yeah, he's on there, but should I even have really put him on? He's available, but it's just a super high asking price from the White Sox. You look at Tarik Skubal, with the Tigers, I didn't put him on this list because it seems like he's not going to get dealt. It would have to be a big overpay for him to be dealt. Eric Fetty, that's attainable. Tyler Anderson, his FIP is pretty high, doesn't strike out a ton of guys. So, the Padres, they have a pretty good defense, though. So that could be somewhat of interest. I believe he is under control through next year as well. Doesn't have super high velocity, but someone that's been around, pitches to contact, might not have to give up too much for Tyler Anderson. You say Kikuchi, Cal Quantrill, Jameson Tyone. I think what would prevent the Padres there is the contract. He's under 2 more years of control after this season, and I think it's around $18 million the next couple of years each. And so it's not really prohibitive, the contract this year, because it's prorated, but more next year and the year after that. Do the Padres want to be paying Tyone almost $20 million each of the next 2 years? The Cubs would have to eat some of that, I would imagine. And what would they want back? That's a question. Nate Eovaldi, someone that is a competitor for sure, a vet. I wonder what the Rangers would want for someone like him. Andrew Heaney, I would think Michael Lorenzen, the return would be lower for those guys than Eovaldi. So guys that I'm looking at Flaherty, I'm looking at Eric Fetty, I'm looking at Tyler Anderson. Kikuchi would be interesting. Just don't know really what the package would be there. I'm looking at someone like Michael Lorenzen. He can go to the bullpen in a postseason situation, although I think he has 17 starts this year. All of them, he hasn't been out of the bullpen this year. But Southern California guy, could be interesting there. So those are starting pitchers. Give your thoughts in the comments on starting pitchers that appear to be available. Now, relievers who appear to be available: Michael Kopech, John Brebbia, Tanner Scott, AJ Puck, Carlos Estevez, Luis Garcia, yes, the former Padre, Hunter Strickland, Kyle Finnegan, Dylan Floro, Lucas Urseg, Austin Adams, yes, that guy that hit everyone in 2021, I think, set that record. Yimi Garcia, Trevor Richards, Mark Leiter Jr., Hector Neris, Lucas Sims, Buck Farmer, Justin Wilson, Jason Adam, Aroldis Chapman, Kirby Yates, and Jose Leclerc. So names that stand out there: Michael Kopech, the electric arm. What I worry about is the injury history. Carlos Estevez, I mean, I probably just botched that name. Estevez, I think is how you pronounce it. Someone who has been the Angels closer. He would be one of the high leverage reliever guys. You got Suarez, you got Jeremiah Estrada, you've got Adrian Morejon. But then after that, it's who are you trusting? That's the question. Is it Yuki Matsui after that? And then Sean Reynolds, Stephen Kolek. I think the Padres, you're going to want someone in that 4 spot or even the 3 spot to jump ahead of Morejon there on like the high leverage pecking order. And then again, like I mentioned with starters, a starter maybe like Michael Lorenzen come playoff time, or maybe one of the guys that they have in the rotation right now could slide in between, Kolek and the other high leverage guys, let's say, and be a reliever there in a short wild card series. Or maybe they get saved for potential game 1 of a division series. I believe that's what happened with Clevenger in 22 in the NLDS against the Dodgers. I don't think he was on that Mets wild card roster, and they were saving him. So we'll see there. Some other names that stand out to me: Kyle Finnegan, who was a late name. He was a replacement all-star, but I believe, is the closer for the Nats now. They already dealt their other reliever to the Kansas City Royals, so he is no longer on the board. But yeah, Kyle Finnegan stands out to me. Hector Neris a little bit, veteran arm. Lucas Sims, I believe he has good velocity. Jason Adam was having one heck of a year with the Rays. Was either his last year or the year before that. Aroldis Chapman, I mean, it's the name, but he's past his prime. I think the velocity's still there, but he's a wild card. I don't know. Postseason, when I think of Aroldis Chapman, I don't think of the Cubs 2016, to be honest. And even if I did, that's irrelevant because it's 2024. That was 8 years ago. I think of the home runs that he's given up in big situations. The homer that he gave up to Jose Altuve, I think it was the ALCS. I think of that stuff more than like the great moments. Kirby Yates is a name, obviously, that stands out to me and a lot of Padres fans. former Padre, someone that was an all-star this year. Seems like he's found it again. He dealt with injuries after being an all-star with the Padres, injuries with the Blue Jays. So coming back to the Padres to go try to go on a playoff run or World Series run, that would be pretty cool. I'd be in that for Kirby Yates. We know what the pitches that he has, pretty darn nasty. So yeah, I'd be in on Kirby Yates. I don't think it would be that big of a package that you'd have to give back. He's not under long-term control or anything like that. It's not like he's 25 years old either. Jose Leclerc, I think that would be a little bit bigger of a package you'd have to give up, but that is another high leverage reliever name. Um, if the Padres can't go the high leverage route or they don't want to give up that amount, I think someone like Dylan Floro or Lucas Urseg, I think that would be a pretty decent package you'd have to give up to the Oakland A's. Other than Mason Miller, who the A's are asking a ton for, they asked for Jackson Merrill from the Padres earlier this year. That was reported, and Padres obviously said no because you're not going to say yes. You're not going to give up Jackson Merrill, your starting center fielder, for a reliever whose arm could blow up at any time. And Merrill had the walk-off homer against him earlier this year. I'm not saying Mason Miller isn't a reliever you'll want. Of course, you know, you want Mason Miller, but I'm just saying Jackson Merrill was obviously going to be a no from the Padres. Some other guys here, Trevor Richards, again, Lucas Sims is intriguing to me. Jason Adam is intriguing to me. What other names stand out to you? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, these are just some names. Obviously, I feel like this is the area of need for the Padres, just pitching in general. If I had to pick one or the other, I would go with starting pitching over relieving. I think it's easier probably to go into the bullpen than to go from the bullpen to being a starting pitcher in the middle of the season. It gives you more of that flexibility there. So that's what I would do. But if I'm the Padres, if I'm AJ, I want to get both. I want to get reliever. I want to get starter, maybe a couple of starters. And if he's going to get a couple of starters, maybe it's not, Flaherty. I don't think they're getting Crochet. Maybe it's going to have to be someone like Cal Quantrill or Austin Gomber, someone like that. Eric Fetty, I feel like there's going to be a lot of competition for Eric Fetty. So maybe it's someone like the couple names I just mentioned, and then like Andrew Heaney. And it's not like it's a couple of guys and not Eric Fetty or Jack Flaherty and just that one guy that you're getting. It's going to be interesting. We're a week away from this deadline, a little more than a week away technically because the deadline is 3 p.m. Pacific time on July 30th. Preller could surprise us and make a combo trade where he gets pitching and a bat, or he could go in a separate deal and get a bat. But I feel like rightfully so, the focus is going to be on pitching. Salas and DeVry aren't going to go anywhere. The question, I think, is will Lesko go somewhere? Will Snelling go somewhere? I think if they're going to go somewhere, I think it would have to be in a Crochet, Skubal type move. I don't think it would be for any of these starters that are listed here, not named Crochet. I don't think that you give up Lesko or Snelling for Jack Flaherty. Maybe I'm on an island on that, but there's other options the Padres could, I do wonder what a package would look like for Yusei Kikuchi. What the Padres would have to give up for Kikuchi. He's a free agent, I believe, at the end of the year. It's prorated on the contract. I think he was making $10 million this year. So the Padres, how much would they have to be paying? $3-4 million of that. So that's pretty darn good. And it's not a long-term control guy. So maybe they wouldn't have to give up as much, but I think there's going to be a lot of competition. So I'm intrigued by that name.